Welcome everyone to the RF Sports Radio Show. This is our late night show edition. My name is Rodney Fisher, joined by Royce Fisher here, of course, the star of our talk show.
Thank you, Rodney. Appreciate that.
No doubt about it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started, guys. We got lots of to talk about. Of course, we're going to get into big stories going on right here in the city of Dallas. There has to be Josh Brent and Jerry Brown, the two Cowboy players who had an unfortunate accident Friday night, and we'll talk about that. We're also going to get into more NFL talk, also NBA, the Dallas Mavericks, and the DeSoto Eagles as well too.
One of
So
the best high school games that I've ever seen.
So we'll talk about that as well too. So let's go and get our show started. Remember, you can always follow us online by going to rfsportsradio.com or follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/rfsportsradio. So let's go and get everything started. Let's start out with the Dallas Cowboys story. Those of you guys that have been living up under a rock and maybe don't follow sports, this story really kind of transcends not just sports, but it's all culture.
Just life in general.
Life in general.
Right.
So, drunk driving incident on Friday night, Saturday morning, where Josh Brent, who is a backup for the Cowboys, now starter, had an accident with his best friend Jerry Brown in the car, and unfortunately, Jerry Brown was killed during the accident. And Jerry Brown was just signed to the practice squad recently with the Cowboys, so Cowboys had to deal with a really, really tough loss, and we'll find out more and more details about this story as time goes on. So first, Royce, I'd like to get your initial reaction to the whole situation, to the accident, and everything that's happened or transpired so far.
Well, Rodney, when I first heard about it, I was shocked like everybody else, and then after the initial shock was over with, I thought, well, here we go again, another NFL player involved in an accident, drinking and driving. You know, right now, I really don't understand it. I know these guys are young. I know they enjoy life. But the NFL have things in place for this. You know, if you feel like you're too drunk to drive, there's a number you can call. All the teams have it.
Right.
I think the New York Giants have an ex-police officer that comes pick up the guys that had a little bit too much to drink. But you know, there's something that not only it's an NFL problem, but it's a problem in this country.
Right.
Is drinking and driving, and you know, people have to learn. You just can't do that. And unfortunately, somebody died, which is usually the result of that. Somebody ended up dying. It happened to be his best friend and teammate.
Right.
And I can't imagine what that's like
Mm-hmm.
to, be in an accident that's your fault,
Mm-hmm.
to cause your friend to lose his life.
Absolutely.
And it's got to be horrifying. I was saddened to hear that. It did put a damp on the Cowboy game Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, at some point you have to learn. You can't do that.
You know, this a story like this really hits near me because I lost a good friend of mine, a best friend of mine, to a drunk driving incident. He was driving home from a club, drunk, intoxicated, and had a car wreck, and he died in the car wreck. One of these things, these are tragic situations. Anytime we talk about the loss of life, is a very tragic situation. I'm just very, very thankful that he didn't hit someone else,
Right.
kill someone else. That could have easily been the case, as happens in a lot of drunk driving incidents. But the number one thing I want people to remember, just like we talked about the Jovan Belcher tragedy just a week ago on the show,
Right. Absolutely.
is this was 100% preventable. All right, drunk driving deaths and incidents are 100% preventable just by having a designated driver, just by making smart choices as well. But Josh Brent was arrested. He did make bond. He did have to spend $500,000, correct?
Yeah, $500,000.
Which is very, very high.
Right.
Yeah, very, very high for a bond. But he's out and did attend the Cowboys memorial service that was held today for Jerry Brown, along with Jerry Brown's family also.
And as this story unfolds, we hear more and more about it. The sad I get because my understanding was he was expecting a baby soon. Not only that, these guys were really good friends. They stayed together. The families knew each other.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure it wasn't intentional, but it's just one of those things that happened as circumstances of driving. And he had to be speeding because of the area where the accident happened. There wasn't a lot of traffic.
Right.
and there wasn't a lot of obstacles
Hmm.
to cause him a wreck. It had to be just reckless driving.
Well, look, it's so many different angles to go with this story. Let's start with, first of all, the NFL angle, the sport angle, and that's with the fact that we know that Josh Brent, the driver of the vehicle, had a previous DUI
Right, right,
previously before, still got into the NFL. That's raised a lot of debate on what should happen to players that come into the NFL with a DWI, DUI, or have one during the time that they're there. What should happen with that? And just for perspective, 2011, there were seven NFL
right.
athletes arrested for drunk driving, and so far this year they've been 18,
And
just in this year
that's too
alone.
many.
Yeah, exactly. So,
And what's so weird? Back a while back, guys used to look at the character of the guy.
hmm
Before they drafted and they asked family, their friends, they looked into his record, see if he had a record. This guy should have been a warning
hmm
to anybody. Having had that. I understand people make mistakes,
right,
but uh, I think the character flaw they overlook now and look more at the athlete and what he can bring to the team because this is not the first time this happened.
hmm
We've seen athletes with problems before they even became NFL players.
right,
With problems that's carried over into their NFL career.
true,
And that's the bad thing about it. You really have to evaluate these players you're getting and whether he's an asset not only on the field, but an asset he represents the team. You
correct.
know, and how his character is, and what that can possibly go back, on you for
hmm
drafting him or picking him to be on your team. But it just strange to me that all it takes is a phone call.
Right.
And every
It's
team that
really,
I
it's
know you
really
don't want the
bad.
coach to
Yeah.
know. That's the bad part about it. These guys don't use the call
Yeah.
because they don't want to get back to the coach.
hmm
And I don't understand
and
that.
there's so much that could have been done
Right,
in that
absolutely.
situation. I mean, could easily call for a cab, could easily
Right,
call
right.
a team. But there's a lot of debate lately about should the NFL institute some type of rule or mandate when it comes to drunk driving. And I use this as an example. If you have a job for a corporation
Right,
and you get caught with a DWI,
right,
DUI, a lot of times you lose your job.
right,
A lot of times, you have a hard time getting another job.
right.
Several
Absolutely.
people out here that have those convictions are unable to find work because of the classification of a conviction like that. So, should the NFL institute a rule that says, okay, you can't come to the NFL if you have a DWI, or if you get a DWI, you're out of the NFL?
Well, when you're 18 and 21, everybody's done something that they regret.
hmm
And, I don't think that's the criteria for that. They educate these guys. I don't know what else you can do. It's up to the person to do you make the right choice at the right time? And that's what it boils down to. 18 is a lot. That, that,
True.
that really is too many.
True.
I think the commissioner is going to have to start, when guys get caught with DWIs,
hmm
there's going to have to be a severe fine, a punishment behind that.
hmm
That's the only way these guys will get the message. You know what I mean?
True.
If the circumstances are greater,
Right.
really bad, that they won't do it no more. It won't be a deterrent, but it might save one guy, maybe two guys,
And that's
right?
what.
And
Exactly.
that's how one guy at a time.
You mentioned that the NFL has programs in place. Some teams have programs in place for players to call and get rides. Recently heard an interview from MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, and their CEO Deborah Weir was on the radio, and she said, surprising to me, that of the 32 teams, they provide a training program and a lecture program for NFL athletes and
Hmm.
athletes of all kinds about how to handle drunk driving, how to, you know, prevention, things of that nature. She says only two NFL teams have ever taken Mad up
Wow.
on the offer for the
Yeah.
training program. That's been the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Two teams out of 32 teams are going to are instituting any kind of programs for help. And I think hopefully this is a wake up call to other teams out there to really try to get something done. But our condolences do go out to Jared Brown and
Absolutely.
his family
Absolutely.
for the loss, and also hopefully that Josh Brent now will make some better choice. I feel like he will.
Right.
But let's talk a little bit about how the Cowboys organization handled the whole tragedy. Of course, they really didn't even talk to the team until on the team plane before
Right.
they got ready to go. They come out a very emotional game. They play the game. They win by 1 point on a late field goal. But having a memorial service today and everything the Cowboys organization is trying to do you feel like they are handling it the right way? And even Jason Garrett for what he's
Right,
done.
right. Well, they handled it the best way I thought they could. There's no right or wrong way to handle it. Besides educate people. Use that as an example to the young guys, the guys coming in. You know, but it's bad. When you see somebody lose their lives behind drinking.
Hmm.
It's even worse when you lose somebody that you know.
Right.
That's even worse. And it had to be hard for them on the plane. They did have the jerseys on the sideline.
Right.
It wasn't a great game. They did come from behind and win.
Hmm.
And I wasn't hard on the Cowboys Sunday simply
Sure.
for that fact. But maybe they dedicate the rest of the season to him. Maybe this
Hmm.
what the Cowboys need to turn them around, something emotional. Because lately they have been playing without a lot
I
of
think in the
emotion.
moment they handled it really well. I think Jason Garrett did said all the right things
Yeah,
because
yeah,
again
absolutely.
they have to be concerned with Josh Sprint
Right.
and what he's thinking. His best friend is no longer with us and he's a part of the reason why he's no longer
Yeah,
there. And then also too, the real test going to come this week.
yeah,
Now they had the
absolutely.
Memorial service. How did they prepare for a game that's really a big game for them, getting Pittsburgh coming into town. So really see how they kind of respond this week. Moving on real quick, I did tell everyone we're going to talk a little bit more about this incident and what happened that night on Friday night. And I'm getting this information from people I know that actually work at the club that they were at on Friday night. The club is called Privé. It's a club inside of a club. The bigger club is called Beamers.
Right.
And Privé is supposed to be more of an upscale, kind of exclusive type of thing. They had a big party with Sean Wayans, one of the Wayans
Mm-hmm.
brothers were there. And they had been advertising the Dallas Cowboys would be in attendance because they
Right.
do frequent this club
We
on
hear that
Friday
a lot
nights.
about the Cowboys will be in the building, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, he didn't want to divulge that he was at Privé at first because a few reasons. What we have learned, and what I've learned, I should
Mm-hmm.
say, is that there were about a dozen Cowboy players in attendance at the club. And those that have not been to the club before is a very, very small club.
Mm-hmm.
Their booths is the only way you can sit down is by having a booth. In
Right.
order to have a booth, you have to have bottle service.
Right.
So people I've talked to said they've ordered at least a dozen bottles of alcohol
Wow.
while they were there that night. Ace of Spades, Ciroc, all the big name stuff they're
Right. Right.
ordering.
So it was really a big party type
Really a
atmosphere.
big party type atmosphere and a lot of alcohol and a lot of drinking.
Mm-hmm.
Now the TABC has said they will do their investigations, they always do,
Right.
to see if there's any wrongdoing going on. But it also comes out that these guys showed up to the club that night already drunk.
Mm.
Some say they were drinking at a different location before they came to Privé. Others say they got all their alcohol from Privé. So you see a lot of covering up tracks that are going on
Right.
between
Right.
clubs because it's a very, very serious offense when you have, and it's hard to prove it. If you serve someone alcohol when they're
Right. Too
drunk
much.
and you know
Right.
they're
Yeah.
driving, you find yourself liable, especially
Right.
for a civil suit as well.
Right.
So Privé is also trying to do their best
But
job to cover their tracks.
we know they say that, but we know that's not the case. They're all about making money, keep the drinks flowing. Sell the most expensive bottles of wine.